Hello, apologies for not doing many videos on this channel recently. I have spent the last few weeks here in America doing some research as part of the Nottingham Roosevelt Memorial Travelling Scholarship, which was funded by Nottinghamshire County Council and has allowed me to develop my theories of classroom role play and teaching history through character improvisation and things like that. So it's been a great time to reflect on the values of Blue Kazoo and how we want to develop our ideas going forward. So this is a video that has come from me reflecting on role play in the classroom, and I just wanted to use this opportunity to address two kind of main questions about role play in the classroom and two main concerns which are completely understandable, but I just wanted to clarify a few things. The first one being that role playing in the classroom can never be culturally sensitive. And firstly, I just want to talk about how when a character comes into the classroom, they're going to be wearing probably different clothes to what people would kind of normally wear in the modern day. They may talk in a different way, and they will refer to points from the past. I think any good role play character in a classroom is very good at setting the scene and making it very, very clear to their audience that they are from a different time period, which means that they will probably have views that are different to the modern ones. So I appreciate that there are some concerns about doing things culturally sensitively. I have been looking at the topic of the Mayflower Pilgrims over the last few weeks, which has some very contentious ideas in it, and history has been very, very great, particularly here in America, with younger children being taught this Thanksgiving story as if it's this happy clappy thing where everybody came together and had a great time, when in actual fact there are a lot of horrible deaths on both sides of the party, the English separatists and the Native Americans as well. There was this huge shift, and there was some serious conflict as well. So this is a story that's been told for a long time in elementary schools to young children, and I've spoken to children as well here about what their understanding of the story is, and it's very clear that there are some grey areas there. Now, I would say that if you were to approach this in a role-playing way, which I will be doing in Nottinghamshire schools very, very soon, it's very important for the character to make it clear that they come from a different time. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be using derogatory terms or using things that would today be considered offensive, but it allows you to look at it from those eyes. So I'm going to be looking at it from 400 years ago. I mean, I've obviously done all the research. 99% of it won't be told in these sessions because it's not relevant at that point, but it's important to let the audience know where you are coming from. And you can follow that up. So the way that I'm going to be doing it is through classroom workshops as probably one of the English Mayflower Pilgrims. So I'm going to be taking on that role, but then I'm going to be posing questions to the other people on board the ship. So the rest of the class is going to be taking on board those roles, and I'm going to be posing questions to them. One of the main questions I'm going to be asking is about the Mayflower Compact, which is basically this legal document that they had to put together very, very quickly on the ship because they basically landed in the wrong place and they were outside Virginia territory. So they had to make up these sets of laws very, very quickly. Now, obviously with them being half of them being a very religious group, a lot of it was based on biblical scriptures. So the Old Testament laws, what they're called, the Ten Commandments, and it's really, really interesting to get children thinking about how they would do that. So my character and all of the Mayflower Pilgrims would be aware that there are going to be Native Americans there ready when we land. So you can address that there and then. In the Mayflower Compact, you can talk about how we want to respect these Native Americans and their culture. So that is a way of getting around that cultural sensitivity. You don't have to be hyper aware of it as the character, but I think that once you've taken the values of somebody from 1620 and applied them to children living in 2020, you can create this real blend of them educating me about modern values and about how we need to respect other people, and I can educate them about the historical context of it, and it creates a really, really nice blend of kind of storytelling, history, but keeping it really culturally sensitive as well. So that's just a bit of information about that, because obviously you want to make it as culturally aware as possible, but also not breaking away from that time period. So the way of getting around that is to really know your stuff about that period of history and set up questions and activities that will engage that other side of it. So yes, you can do role playing and make it really accurate and introduce some modern concepts to it and make sure that it is really culturally sensitive and appropriate for the audience. The other concern is that you can't be as thorough if you are playing a character. Now, I spoke to James Baker, who is a local historian and actually helped start the movement of role-playing characters at Plymouth Plantation, which is one of the most incredible role-playing historical places I've ever been to. They create this whole English village set in 1627, so it's a few years into that, but you get to meet these characters, and I spent hours and hours there the other day, to the point where most of the characters knew my name as I was walking down the street. And I tell you now that I learned so much from those people, and the best thing about it is that each of these actors had different areas of expertise. So I spoke to one person about the religious side of it, and I spoke to one person about some of the stranger to us traditions of that time, so kind of about witchcraft and things like that. There were people who were really interested in English history. There are people who were talking about what it means to be living there, so the food and the culture of that time. And it really helped add to the experience. You could speak to them, and I would say that if you were talking to a historian, a traditional historian, about their area of expertise, they would probably be a bit embarrassed to say they didn't know the answer to this, or they might hazard a bit of a guess. But the best thing about role-playing is that you can be honest about not being aware of that. You know, not every single one of the people on board the Mayflower will be aware of the historical context right back up to Henry VIII, Reformation of the Church. There's going to be areas that they know about and interests that they have because they are real people, but they don't have to know everything. And so you can be a lot more honest about it, but you can really hone in on those areas of expertise that you enjoy. And I think that really adds to the experience. As well, a thing that I've done in the past, so when I did my Viking day, I did it a couple of years ago now actually, a child asked me about Viking dancing, which I had to say, as Bjorn the Viking, that I didn't have any experience in Viking dancing, as it's not an interest of mine. You know, I'm much more interested in hunting and, you know, the things that I actually knew about at that point. But from that point, I spoke to a friend of mine who is an incredible dancer, and she basically created this new Viking dance workshop to do in the classroom, and we returned the following week and did that. And that was an opportunity again that I can be honest that I didn't know about that then, and that's absolutely fine as a character to not know about that, but you can then follow up and give some resources or return to that classroom if you learn about it, and you can broaden your own knowledge about your area of history that you're teaching. But you can also incorporate more people into it. You can really kind of go in depth with certain interests of individuals within the classroom. And so I would say that as a role-playing character, if you're going to stay in character fully and not kind of break out of it, you've got a real scope to be really honest, to ask questions, to make sure that you're being culturally sensitive, and just really have fun with it and create some really lasting memories for the people who are learning, because a lot of these topics can be really dry and it's difficult to relate to some of these things. But I think if you can really break down that barrier and create some real empathy in the room, then you've got the opportunity to really blow some children's minds and create some really lasting memories that's going to affect their learning for the rest of the term. So yes, I would highly recommend, if you have never tried role playing before. I know that there's a guy on Twitter called Tim Taylor who is really good on this kind of thing. So research that, have a look at Mantle of the Expert if you've never tried it before, or get in contact if you want some advice about, you know, getting costume, how to learn, what kind of character you want to pick, and I will do my best to answer any of those questions. But for now, I'm actually going to go back to Nottingham, hopefully at some point soon, and try to implement some of the things that I've learned here in America. They were really great at commemorating their history, and that's another point as well, learning the difference between commemorating and celebrating, but they were really great at commemorating their history, and I would love to bring that to Nottinghamshire, maybe take it out of the classrooms and onto the streets like they did. I went to a really great Boston massacre reenactment with hundreds of volunteers, and that was seen by thousands and thousands of people outdoors, out in the freezing cold. And it'd be great for Nottingham to have that as well, to really commemorate our history and bring it, kind of create a tourist attraction with it, and use it as an opportunity to get more people interested in what our county is about. So hopefully that's something that I'll be able to work on soon, especially now we're all on lockdown with the coronavirus. I've had a few schools cancel and reschedule over the last few days, so I've got some free time, so I'm going to try to work on my methods and creating something to go out into the city, hopefully next summer. I think that'd be really great to partner with a local organisation and create something really great on the streets of Nottingham. I haven't worked out any of the key details yet, but I'd love to work on that kind of thing. So bear with me, I'm going to work on it because I've felt really inspired by the amount of role play and history that has been shown to me here in America. So I'm going to hopefully bring some of that back with me to Nottinghamshire and create something really fun. And we've also got big plans for Blue Kazoo this year. We've got a big purchase to make over the next couple of months, which is going to bring all of our classroom days to the next level, and I cannot wait to share it with you. So keep your eyes peeled, and I will see you all very, very soon.